The X-Men saga, encompassing everything from the standalone Wolverine flicks to the ensemble blockbusters, has been a rollercoaster of cinematic triumphs and letdowns. Just a couple of years after a franchise reboot introduced a new era for the beloved mutants, X-Men Days of Future Past arrived, blending elements from the original and rebooted series in a daring crossover that could have easily nosedived into disaster. Fortunately, the gamble paid off spectacularly, launching what is arguably one of the franchise's crowning achievements. Directed by Bryan Singer, the mastermind behind the original X-Men films, the film is loosely based on the comic book storyline by Claremont and Byrne, from a script penned by Simon Kinberg, Goldman and Matthew Vaughn. Boasting an all-star ensemble, including but not limited to Hugh Jackman, James McAvoy, Michael Fassbender, Jennifer Lawrence, Peter Dinklage, McKellen and Patrick Stewart, the film interweaves two distinct time periods. In a bleak future, mutants and their human allies face annihilation at the hands of formidable robots called Sentinels, leading to a desperate gathering of key X-Men. Here, Xavier reveals a pivotal moment in 1973, the capture of Mystique's DNA following her assassination of Dr. Bolivar Trask, the Sentinels' creator. This event led to the creation of the seemingly invincible Sentinels that have either imprisoned or wiped out the majority of mutants and their human allies. With the world at its end, Xavier proposes a daring plan to alter history and avert this grim future. Utilizing Kitty Pryde's unique ability, they aim to send someone back to 1973 to unite the younger Charles Xavier and Eric Lensher. Their mission is to persuade Mystique to abandon her fatal plan, and Wolverine emerges as the only one capable of enduring the physical toll of time travel. The critical question looms: can Wolverine successfully intervene in the past, halt the Sentinel program, and thereby save mutants and their human allies from obliteration? Or is this future doomed to repeat itself? In this video, we're going to explore the comic series, the film, take a look at the characters, explore the road cut of the film, in addition to the meaning of its ending and how the film fits in the X-Men continuity.
The future of our species begins now.
In the dystopian timeline of Earth 811, a future dominated by Sentinels unfolds with grim consequences. This reality, where Sentinels reign over North America, sees most mutants hunted to extinction, with survivors corralled into concentration camps. The fate is no kinder to non-mutant superheroes like the Avengers, Fantastic Four, Spider-Man and Daredevil, all of whom have been wiped out. The genesis of Earth 811's dark path diverges notably from Earth 616's history, especially following Jean Grey's possession by the Dark Phoenix. On Earth 811, after showcasing her overwhelming powers to her family, Jean's father, instead of rejecting her, empathizes with her telepathic agony of sensing her family's subconscious fear. This alters her trajectory. She survives the Shi'ar Jewel of Honor, marries Scott Summers, and they have a daughter Rachel, who inherits Jean's psychic abilities. Another pivotal divergence occurs on Halloween 1980. 811 witnesses the tragic assassination of Senator Robert Kelly, Charles Xavier, and Maura McTaggart by the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants in Washington, D.C. The event cements mutants as objects of widespread fear and loathing among humans, with the ensuing anti-mutant riots claiming the lives of Jean Grey's parents, and by 1984, the escalating tension led to the election of a vehemently anti-mutant US president. Although the first Mutant Control Act was struck down by the Supreme Court, a second, more draconian version passes in 1988, cementing the oppressive regime against mutants and setting the stage for the harrowing events of Earth 811. A chilling future unfolds as the US government reactivates the Sentinels, programmed with a deadly mandate to eradicate the mutant threat. However, these robots extend their lethal logic far beyond mutants, seizing control of the entire country and annihilating any superpowered beings. The aftermath sees survivors, regardless of their powers, corralled into concentration camps, and by the year 2000, the Sentinels assert their dominance over North America, turning it into a land of oppression and fear. The global community, terrified more by the Sentinels than the mutants, stands on the brink of war, wary of the Sentinels' reach beyond North America. Fast forward to 2013, society is starkly divided into three classes, each marked by a letter: H for baseline humans with no mutant genes who are allowed to breed, A for anomalous humans, non-mutants with potential mutant genetics that were forbidden from breeding, and M for mutants who were condemned to concentration camps and shunned by society. In this dire landscape, only a handful of X-Men remain. Evading Sentinel capture, Wolverine rises as a colonel in the Canadian Resistance Army. Meanwhile, Kate, Storm and Colossus endure life in the South Bronx Mutant Internment Center. There they join forces with Franklin Richards, Rachel Summers, and a wheelchair-bound Magneto, forming a resilient anti-Sentinel resistance, keeping the flame of hope alive in a world overwhelmed by darkness and tyranny. In the dystopian year of 2013, the anti-Sentinel resistance uncovers a harrowing plot. The Sentinels, driven by their core mission, plan to expand their reign of terror beyond North America. This expansion would provoke a global nuclear war, threatening to engulf the world in a nuclear holocaust. And to avert this catastrophe, the Resistance devises a plan to rewrite history and halt the rise of the Sentinels. Their focus is the assassination of Senator Kelly, believed to be the pivotal event that set their grim future into motion. Unbeknownst to them, their timeline had already diverged from Earth 616 when Jean Grey's father accepted her, despite her Dark Phoenix possession. Wielding her potent telepathic abilities, Rachel Summers is tasked with projecting the consciousness of a Resistance member back to Halloween 1980. Their mission, to inhabit their younger body and prevent Kelly's assassination. Kate Pryde is selected for this crucial task as her younger self, Kitty Pryde, had recently joined the X-Men and was vulnerable to psychic intrusion. With Logan's aid, the Resistance crafts a jammer to neutralize their control collars, enabling Rachel to propel Kate's consciousness back to 1980. This temporal journey is a cross-time shift to Earth 616 rather than a simple return to their own past, and the members exploit this opportunity to permanently discard their collars and reclaim their powers. With this, Logan spearheads their escape from the internment center, leaving Magneto to cover their retreat. Though they successfully overpower the pursuing Sentinels, Franklin Richards tragically falls in the skirmish, while Rachel stays behind to safeguard Kate's body, hosting the younger Kitty Pryde's consciousness. Meanwhile, Logan, Aurora, and Peter launch a daring assault on the Sentinel stronghold at the Baxter Building. Unfortunately, the mission ends in tragedy, with all three heroes falling to the Sentinels' overwhelming force. However, back in 1980, Kate Pryde, inhabiting her younger self, alerts the X-Men to the impending assassination and its dire consequences. The team heads to Washington, where Kate thwarts the assassination, thereby altering the timeline before reverting to her older self in the original reality. While Rachel Summers, following a similar cross-time path, finds herself in Earth 616, later joining the X-Men of this prime reality and eventually becoming a key member of the British superhero team, Excalibur.
Another one!
Back the other way!
Thanks, kid. The name's Bishop.
Are we destined down this path? Is the future truly set?
The movie begins with Patrick Stewart's Charles Xavier delivering a harrowing tale of a future gone awry. In this dystopian world, humans have engineered Sentinels, relentless machines with a single mission: to hunt and eliminate mutants. Much like the comics, though initially fixated on mutants, the Sentinels soon expand their target list to include any human with the slightest chance of mutant lineage. This morphs the Earth into a nightmarish wasteland, sparing only a few mutants who constantly dodge the shadow of extinction. Amid this chaos, 3 Sentinels plummet from an airship, crashing to Earth in Moscow. Warpath, quick to grasp the gravity of the situation, races with Blink to alert their comrades: Colossus, Sunspot, Bishop, Iceman, and Kitty Pryde. The robots, with their chilling ability to reconfigure their bodies into various forms and tools, breach the mutant stronghold, leading to a fiery confrontation where Sunspot engages one, enveloping it in flames, while Colossus grapples with another. Warpath's attempt to intervene is foiled as Bishop and Kitty encounter a third Sentinel, and despite Bishop's potent energy blast, the Sentinel remains largely unscathed. Luckily, Blink's portals offer an escape route, and Iceman slides into action, entrapping his mechanical foe in ice, while in a secluded room, Kitty prepares Bishop for a mysterious process, enveloping him in a trance-like state. The battle outside, however, tips in favor of the Sentinels. Their ability to mimic and utilize mutant powers is revealed in a gruesome display as they adapt to every attack. The mutants, including Colossus and Warpath, fall one by one to their relentless adversaries. Here we see the Sentinel combating Sunspot shield itself in an icy cocoon, a twisted mirror of Iceman's abilities, before overpowering Sunspot, while another turns Iceman's icy trap into a fiery prison, using Sunspot's powers against him. But as the Sentinels inch closer to Kitty and Bishop's hideout, melting through barriers with terrifying ease, in a sudden turn, the scene vanishes before the Sentinels can strike, leaving the viewer hanging on the edge of suspense. The plot thickens as the last stand of future mutants, Wolverine, Storm, Professor X, and Magneto, disembark from their jet and arrive in China, greeted by the recently perished mutants, now alive and well. Enter Kitty Pryde, with a mutation that's evolved beyond expectation. She can now send consciousness back in time, a trick she used during the Sentinel assault we witnessed earlier. Bishop's mind had essentially been sent back, warning the mutants of the impending doom, allowing them to escape before the Sentinels' arrival. This temporal shuffle explains why Bishop and Kitty vanished from the opening sequence. Their reality was effectively wiped out and rewritten.
Well, then we leave before they ever know we were there.
It's here that Kitty breaks down the routine to the 4 newcomers. Every time the Sentinels attack, Warpath spots them, the mutants mount a defense, and Kitty sends Bishop's consciousness back with a warning. It's a cycle of escape, death, and evasion, a temporal game of cat and mouse that they seem to be losing. But Professor X, ever the thinker, has a grand plan. He intends to send his own mind back to 1973, the pivotal year when Mystique assassinated Bolivar Trask, the mastermind behind the Sentinel program, effectively the catalyst for the Sentinels' escalation. Mystique's capture and the study of her unique DNA led to the future Sentinels' adaptability to mutant powers, and by stopping the assassination, Xavier aims to prevent the anti-mutant hysteria and the birth of the Sentinels. However, Kitty throws a wrench into the plan. Her time-traveling ability has limits, weeks or months, not decades, and overextending the mind can have catastrophic consequences. But Wolverine, with his remarkable healing ability, steps up to the plate, effectively volunteering to venture into the past and undertake the monumental task of uniting a younger, broken Charles Xavier with his archenemy, Eric Lensher. Together, they must stop Mystique and prevent the assassination of Trask.
You'll need me as well. It's going to take the 2 of us.
Great.
Kitty initiates a time travel procedure, cautioning Logan that his physical body will remain in the present. The success of this mission is tied to the future. His consciousness must return before the Sentinels discover them. In this way, it's a race against time, both in the past and the future, with the fate of mutant kind hanging precariously in the balance. Logan, waking in 1973 beside a woman, quickly realizes his mission is on track. But the honeymoon is short-lived as 3 thugs burst in, unhappy with Logan's choice of company, as he was meant to be the bodyguard, not her lover. His explanation of being from the future earns only laughter, but his bone claws, that's no joke. And as the thugs draw guns, bullets fly, with Logan emerging victorious before commandeering their car as a parting gift. We cut to Bolivar Trask, the man with a vision that spells doom for mutants, who's pitching a Sentinel program to Congress, painting mutants as humanity's greatest threat. Peter Dinklage delivers a nuanced performance as Trask, portraying him not merely as a villain, but as a man driven by his convictions and fears about the future. Luckily, the panel is skeptical, wondering where the fire was that he wanted to put out, as mutants have coexisted peacefully with humans. Thus, his plea for funding falls on deaf ears.
But your Sentinel program? It ain't gonna fly.
Meanwhile, in a Vietnamese military camp, William Stryker is on a mutant hunt for Trask, but he's outfoxed by Mystique, disguised as an army officer. Here, a dramatic rescue ensues, with Mystique and the mutants overpowering the soldiers before escaping. Logan's next stop, the once grand, now dilapidated Xavier Mansion, where he's greeted by a human-looking Hank. Surprisingly, his request to see Charles is bluntly denied, and not one for subtlety, Logan barges in, lands a punch on Hank, and triggers his transformation into Beast. What follows is a rough-and-tumble welcome, halted only by Charles Xavier, who, despite a bullet-induced paralysis, walks unaided, thanks to Hank's serum at the cost of his telepathic abilities. Here, Logan's plea to a disheveled, disillusioned Charles is initially met with scorn, yet, revealing intimate details of Charles's past, he begins to earn his trust.
We came to you a long time ago. Fuck off.
Despite being haunted by the loss of his school, students, and most painfully, Raven, aka Mystique, Charles finally agrees to help, mainly for Raven's sake. But there's a catch. They need Magneto, Charles's nemesis, who's currently locked away under the Pentagon for allegedly assassinating JFK. Logan's journey, it seems, has only just begun. As always, Hugh Jackman brings a blend of rugged charm and intensity to Wolverine, with his portrayal marked by a balance of vulnerability and strength, adding depth to the complex character.
Look, kid, you and I are gonna be good friends.
Unlike his usual angry and torn demeanor, due to his need to remain calm to avoid slipping back in the timeline, Jackman brings a more well-balanced and inspirational Wolverine to the mix.
Professor I know would never turn his back on someone who lost their path.
James McAvoy infuses his portrayal of the young Professor Xavier with a mix of idealism and turmoil, effectively capturing the character's journey from despair to hope, while Nicholas Hoult portrays Beast with a captivating blend of intellectual brilliance and physical prowess, showcasing the character's inner conflict between his animalistic abilities and his gentle, scholarly nature. At the same time, Mystique, a master of disguise, takes on the form of Bolivar Trask to infiltrate his private office. Sifting through his files, she discovers he's been conducting lethal experiments on mutants, many of which were her friends, further fueling her vendetta. A file about an upcoming meeting with Vietnamese officials catches her eye, and she instructs Trask's unsuspecting secretary to prepare his schedule.
I just came to grab a couple files. Is that a new scarf?
Jennifer Lawrence adds layers to Mystique, effectively portraying her as a multifaceted character torn between loyalty, revenge, and her own ideals.
Peter, the cops are here.
We're not cops.
Of course you're not cops. If you were cops, you wouldn't be driving a rental car.
We then cut to the daring plan to spring Magneto from his high-security prison, with the aid of Pietro Maximoff, aka Quicksilver, a whirlwind of speed and sass played by Evan Peters, who brings a delightful and energetic presence, imbuing the film with humor and a sense of whimsical fun. The team converges on the Pentagon, with Hank masterfully jamming surveillance systems as Quicksilver reaches Magneto's cell and uses high-frequency hand vibrations to shatter the glass enclosure. Amid a tense kitchen standoff, Logan and Charles confront Eric, leading to a brief but charged reunion that's cut short by the arrival of armed guards. As Eric prepares for a lethal counterattack, Charles, unable to use his powers, looks on helplessly. But in a display of time-bending brilliance, in a near-frozen world, Quicksilver lightheartedly disarms the guards and redirects the bullets mid-air, preventing a bloodbath. The outstanding sequence showcases Singer's innovative use of slow-motion cinematography, set to time in a bottle, adding a playful touch to the film.
Could save time in a bottle.
The movie then shifts to a tense flight to Paris, with the team intent on stopping Raven's assassination plot. Aboard, emotions run high as Charles confronts Eric about the past, claiming he robbed him of those he held dear. But Eric retorts, questioning Charles's absence during the tragic fate of their fellow mutants at the hand of Trask, with Michael Fassbender showcasing Magneto's inner conflict, love for mutants, and complex moral ambiguity.
You abandoned me!
Where were you when your own people needed you?
As the team make their way over, in a French nightclub, Mystique beguiles a Vietnamese army official, part of her plan to get close to Trask. While back on the plane, Eric drops a bombshell. He didn't kill JFK, but tried to save him, believing him to be a mutant.
Why would you try and save him?
Because he was one of us.
In a pivotal scene, undeterred by US government rejection, Trask pitches his Sentinel program to an international audience, showcasing the robot's unique metal-free design and their uncanny ability to detect mutants. However, his mutant detector suddenly blares, outing Mystique, who's in the disguise of the officer. The room erupts in chaos as she lunges into action, but her assassination attempt is halted by the timely arrival of Logan, Charles, Hank, and Eric. Much to everyone's surprise, prioritizing the future of mutants, Eric then shockingly turns the gun on Mystique. Simultaneously, Logan spirals into a traumatic flashback upon seeing Stryker, disrupting his temporal connection and causing chaos in both past and future, where his violent thrashing inadvertently harms Kitty Pryde, who struggles to maintain their temporal link. In the ensuing scuffle, Hank's attempt to stop Eric fails, and Mystique, wounded by a bullet from Eric, is captured by numerous cameras, exposing mutants to the public eye for the first time. Unfortunately, the media frenzy over the mutant spectacle prompts a worried President Nixon to greenlight Trask's Sentinel program, planning a press conference to display America's new defense against a mutant threat.
You tried to kill me.
We received a message from the future.
Upon returning to the mansion, a fragile Charles loses control of his legs, collapsing when the cacophony of thoughts invades his mind as Hank scrambles to fetch his serum. Here he confesses he uses the serum not just to walk, but to escape the relentless agony and despair of the world's thoughts. Ever the persuasive force, Logan urges Charles to embrace his powers, asserting they're crucial in finding Raven before a next assassination attempt. And with great reluctance, Charles agrees and confronts the daunting task of using Cerebro. The barrage of thoughts he suppressed for a decade overwhelms him, but Logan coaxes Charles to delve into his own tormented mind. In this telepathic journey, Charles convenes with his future self, gaining insight and solace. This pep talk from the future is a jolt Charles needs to focus on finding Mystique.
Just because someone stumbles doesn't mean they're lost.
The analysis of Mystique's blood by Trask begins to spark a disturbing plan to capture her and comprehensively harvest all of her biological material. But as the first Sentinels are transported to Washington, D.C., Magneto executes a covert maneuver, embedding metal into their non-metallic structures before reclaiming his iconic helmet. In the future, Kitty's injuries worsen as a number of Sentinel ships close in, while back in the past, Magneto's grandiose plan unfolds as he commandeers a sports stadium, dramatically steering it towards the White House. As Nixon proudly unveils the Sentinels, Charles finally spots Mystique disguised as a Secret Service agent and freezes her in place telepathically, urging her to remember her true nature, one that is not inclined to kill. But chaos erupts as Magneto commandeers the Sentinels, turning them against the police, causing Trask and Nixon to hastily retreat to a bunker as the situation spirals out of control. In the future, the battle against the Sentinels reaches a fever pitch. In a stroke of desperate ingenuity, Magneto transforms the X-Jet into a colossal explosive, aided by Storm's lightning, resulting in an explosion that decimates the Sentinel ranks. However, he suffers a grievous wound from the debris before a Sentinel brutally ambushes Storm. Meanwhile, in the past, Eric executes a dramatic entrance to the press event, encasing the White House within a stadium fortress and positioning Sentinels to fortify the area before setting one loose on Wolverine and Beast. Amid the carnage, Charles finds himself trapped under rubble, and Wolverine's bone claws prove futile against the robots as Magneto uproots the bunker. Back in the future, the last stand grows dire. Colossus falls victim to the Sentinels' overwhelming force, and Bishop meets a fiery end. Warpath and Sunspot face equally grim fates, outmatched by the Sentinels' adaptability. In a final heroic effort, Magneto fortifies the Stronghold's entrance, while Blink valiantly battles the invading force before succumbing, forcing Iceman to step out and bolster their defense. In a parallel confrontation, Wolverine launches an attack on Magneto, only to be brutally subdued with rebar and hurled into the river. And with the excavated safe room exposed, Eric commandeers the news cameras to broadcast a menacing ultimatum to the world, proclaiming a new era under mutant rule. But as he prepares to execute his captives, Nixon steps forward, offering himself as a sacrifice. Turns out it's actually Mystique in disguise, armed and ready, shooting Magneto with a non-metal gun through the neck, before Charles subdues him using his telepathy. The focus shifts to Mystique, gun pointed at Trask, her voice thick with resentment for his atrocities against her friends. Xavier intervenes with a final heartfelt appeal, underscoring her current status as a public hero before relinquishing his control and entrusting her with the future. Simultaneously, in the future, the Sentinels breach the last defense, mercilessly killing Iceman. In a heartbeat, the screen goes blank, with Mystique having lowered her gun in the past. Her decision not to kill him, despite her deep-seated resentment and anger, is a moment of profound character growth, signifying the film's central theme, the power of choice. The moment underscores that one action, however small it may seem, can have monumental repercussions, altering not only their destiny, but the world's. As Eric flees under Xavier's merciful release, the world reacts. Headlines proclaim a mutant saved the president, the Sentinel program is scrapped, and Trask faces treason charges.
Morning, Logan. Late start.
Miraculously, Logan then awakens in a radically altered future back at the school, which buzzes with life, and familiar faces thought lost are alive and well. After peering into his mind, Xavier warmly welcomes Logan back, promising to fill in the decades of history he's missed and philosophizing on time's fluidity, how events create ripples that can alter its course. This highlights the film's exploration of time's malleability, and the idea that the future is not set in stone, but is constantly being reshaped by our actions in the present. The ending also addresses themes of redemption and second chances. Future Charles Xavier and Eric Lensher, who struggled with their opposing ideologies, worked together at World's End. Their lifelong conflict, often a representation of the struggle between peace and aggression in the face of prejudice and ultimate team-up, suggests that unity is the only way forward. Back in the past, Logan's body, recovered by military personnel, stirs back to life. Stryker, intent on taking him, is revealed to be Mystique in disguise, a twist hinting at a different future for Logan. Finally, the post-credit scene features a young Apocalypse single-handedly erecting pyramids using his powerful telekinesis, setting the stage for the next chapter. Now, a discussion on the film is not complete without mention of the Rogue Cut, an extended version of the film that includes additional scenes featuring Rogue, played by Anna Paquin. Released in 2015, it's approximately 17 minutes longer than the theatrical cut and contains several key differences. The most significant is the inclusion of a subplot involving Rogue.
Rogue, come on, wake up.
After Kitty Pryde is injured by Wolverine, the team decide they need Rogue to take over Pryde's role in maintaining the time travel link. This leads to a daring rescue mission undertaken by Magneto and Iceman to free her from the X-Mansion, which has been turned into a Sentinel fortress.
Where's Bobby? I'm sorry, Kitty.
Apart from Rogue's storyline, it also includes several other extended scenes and additional moments that were not in the theatrical version. These include scenes involving character development and plot, giving more screen time and depth to the existing characters. In the ever-shifting landscape of movie franchises, longevity is a rare gem. It's a world where actors age, tastes evolve, and storylines risk hitting a saturation point, leading to an inevitable decline. For those rooted in expansive universes, the challenge is to keep reinventing without losing the essence of what made them beloved. The X-Men series is a prime example of a franchise that grappled with these challenges. After a promising start in 2000 and a stellar sequel in 2003, the series hit a low with 2006's X-Men: The Last Stand. The movie, marred by its muddled script, really seemed to mark a downfall. In the wake of this, the franchise explored solo spin-offs, with Hugh Jackman's Wolverine taking center stage. However, these films, especially X-Men Origins Wolverine, couldn't fully recapture the magic, and made a lot of horrible mistakes. Enter X-Men First Class in 2011, Matthew Vaughn's semi-reboot that injected fresh energy into the series and revisited the origins of Professor X and Magneto with a fresh perspective, nodding subtly to its predecessors. This revitalization set the stage for X-Men: Days of Future Past, a film that stands out as a unique case of franchise correction, with the ambitious goal of mending past errors and rejuvenating the series. The movie ingeniously merges the old guard, Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen, Halle Berry, with the new, led by the never-aging Hugh Jackman, who effectively bridges the gap between the past and future. Very loosely adapted from the iconic 1981 comic storyline by Chris Claremont and John Byrne, Days of Future Past combines the charm of the original cast with the dynamism of the new, creating a cinematic experience that's both nostalgic and fresh. While it probably won't hit every mark for die-hard comic fans, and some convolutions remain, it stands tall as a remarkable feat in film franchise history. For some, the dense lore of comic books might seem like a labyrinth of fantastical jargon, and yes, the film takes significant liberties from the Claremont-Byrne Days of Future Past storyline. Fans might bristle at these deviations, but adaptations often diverge from their source material to fit the new medium, and this film is no exception. The writers, Kinberg, with a nod to the X-Men First Class team of Matthew Vaughn and Jane Goldman, bridge various narrative strands, making use of Days of Future Past. The film's time travel dynamics add a compelling layer to the story, allowing both past and future timelines to carry significant weight, almost reaching a Watchmen or Inglourious Basterds level of historical revisionism. At the same time, the Mutant saga utilizes time travel as a pivotal plot device, allowing the film to serve as a sort of soft reboot, preserving the best elements of the franchise and honoring the rich history of the characters, while discarding less favorable plot points and correcting previous missteps. While I would have loved to have seen more development of the bleak future world, the script prioritizes exploring the psychological states of its characters, particularly a decade after First Class. James McAvoy portrays a troubled and disillusioned Professor X, no longer in command of his powers or school, resorting to a serum that grants him mobility at the cost of his telepathy. On the other hand, Michael Fassbender's Magneto pursues his own vengeful path. Their ideological conflict over Mystique's destiny drives the film's emotional core, casting Wolverine in an uncharacteristically stable role. The narrative imparts several key lessons. Firstly, it showcases the importance of preserving the future, where Wolverine's knowledge of forthcoming events compels characters to weigh their decisions heavily. Secondly, it delves into the power of hope as a means to endure personal and collective pain, particularly highlighted in efforts to reconcile the rift between Charles Xavier and Eric Lehnsherr. Lastly, the film explores the nuances of choice and leadership. Charles and Eric, as contrasting leaders, represent different ideologies and guiding principles, creating a dynamic and ongoing conflict central to the X-Men saga. While the Sentinel action or lack thereof might have some fans wanting more, the cross-cutting between the 1970s and the dystopian future by editor-composer John Ottman builds tension effectively. The ensemble cast deserve a round of applause. Hugh Jackman reaffirms his embodiment of Wolverine, though he steps back from being the usual central action figure, a change that works surprisingly well. Fassbender's Magneto is a whirlwind of conviction and raw emotion, brought to life with a compelling unpredictability, and McAvoy, tasked with a wide emotional spectrum, delivers a profoundly authentic portrayal that sets a new bar for the series. When it comes to Patrick Stewart, as always, he imbues the elder Professor Xavier with a sense of wisdom and serenity, capturing the character's compassion and steadfast commitment to his ideals, while Ian McKellen's performance as the older Magneto exudes a gravitas that speaks to the character's long history of conflict, leadership, and loss, as well as his enduring strength. Amidst a whirlwind of cameos and new additions, the film caters to ardent fans while leaving newcomers scrambling for a quick X-Men 101. While not flawless in its 130-minute runtime, it manages to deliver a compelling story. The film crescendos to a climax that largely makes up for the series' past mistakes. The return of the original creative forces, including Singer's go-to editor and composer John Ottman and cinematographer Newton Thomas Sigel, injects renewed energy into the franchise. Ottman in particular revives his iconic musical themes from the early 2000s, enriching the film with a robust score. The ending weaves together the consequences of choice, the potential for redemption, and the hopeful message that the future is what we make of it. It reinforces the idea that individual actions have far-reaching effects, and a single moment of compassion can alter the course of history, resonating with the core values at the heart of the X-Men series. Days of Future Past excels where it truly matters, in its narrative depth, creative storytelling, focus on character development, and sheer entertainment value.
Are you still Charles's Raven, or are you Mystique?
Everything that happens now is in your hands.
With that said, that's all for today, folks. A huge thanks to everyone that requested we cover X-Men Days of Future Past. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and if there's anything else you'd love for me to cover, please don't hesitate to ask. As always, it's been a pleasure. Nihat here with Film Comics Explained. Thanks for stopping by.